"You're nothing but damaged goods, Clara Whitfield. I won't have a woman like you running my house." Marcus Hendricks tossed her carpetbag into the dust and climbed back onto his wagon. Clara stood frozen on the Montana roadside watching the man who'd promised her a future disappear in a cloud of dirt. The letter in her hand, the one that had brought her 2,000 miles from Boston, meant nothing now. She was alone, abandoned, and the sun was setting fast over territory she didn't know. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and stay with this story until the end. Comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far my stories have traveled. Clara's legs gave out before her pride did. She sank onto her carpetbag, the rough fabric catching on her traveling dress. The Montana wind whipped around her, carrying the scent of sage and something she couldn't name, freedom maybe, or just emptiness. She'd been in the territory for less than 2 hours, and already she understood why people called it unforgiving. "You still breathing over there?" The voice came from behind her. Clara didn't turn. She couldn't. If she moved, if she acknowledged another human being right now, she'd shatter completely. "I asked you a question, ma'am." Boots crunched on gravel. Heavy footsteps measured and unhurried. Clara kept her eyes fixed on the horizon where Marcus's wagon had vanished. "Leave me alone," she said. "Can't do that." "Why not? Everyone else has." The Boots stopped a few feet away. Clara could feel him studying her, this stranger who'd found her at her lowest point. She wanted to scream at him to go away, to let her dissolve into the earth in peace. "You got a name?" he asked. "What does it matter?" "Matters to me. I don't leave unnamed women on roadsides. It's a rule I have." Despite everything, Clara almost laughed. Almost. Clara Whitfield. Though I suppose that name doesn't mean much anymore either. Why's that? Because the man who was supposed to marry me just told me I'm damaged goods. Because I traveled 2,000 miles for a lie. Because I'm sitting on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere, with nowhere to go and no one to turn to. Is that enough reason for you? The stranger was quiet for a moment. Then he moved closer and sat down on a rock near her carpetbag. Clara finally looked at him. He was older than Marcus, mid-30s maybe, with sun-weathered skin and eyes that held something she hadn't expected. Not pity, understanding. "Caleb Turner," he said, extending his hand. "And I'd say that's plenty of reason, but it's not a reason to give up." Clara stared at his hand like it might vanish if she touched it. "You don't know anything about me. I know you came a long way to build a life. I know the man who was supposed to give you that life is a coward and a fool. And I know you're tougher than you think you are, because you're still sitting here instead of lying face down in the dirt. That's not toughness. That's just stubbornness. In this territory, they're the same thing." Caleb's hand remained steady between them. "Come on, get up. The sun's dropping and it gets cold fast out here." "Where would I even go?" "My ranch. It's not much, but it's shelter." Clara's throat tightened. "I can't accept charity from a stranger." "It's not charity. It's common decency. Something your Marcus Hendricks seems to have forgotten." Caleb stood and picked up her carpetbag before she could protest. "You can argue with me all you want, Miss Whitfield, but you're still coming with me. I'm not leaving you out here." Clara rose to her feet, her knees shaking. "Why are you doing this?" "Because somebody should have done it for my mother when she needed it. And nobody did." He started walking toward a horse tied to a nearby tree. "You coming, or do I need to carry you?" "I can walk," Clara said sharply. "Good. That's the spirit I like to hear." The ride to Caleb's ranch passed in silence. Clara sat in front of him on the horse, her body rigid with exhaustion and humiliation. She could feel the warmth of him at her back, steady and solid, and it made her want to weep. She'd expected so many things when she'd left Boston: uncertainty, fear, hard work. But she'd never expected kindness from a complete stranger after rejection from the man who'd promised her everything. When they reached the ranch, Clara's first thought was that it looked honest. No false pretenses, no grand declarations. Just a sturdy cabin, a barn and land that stretched toward mountains she could barely see in the fading light. "It's not fancy," Caleb said, helping her down from the horse. "But it's paid for, and it's mine." "It's more than I have right now," Clara said quietly. Caleb carried her bag to the cabin door. "You'll stay in the main room tonight. I'll take the barn. Tomorrow we'll figure out something more permanent." "I can't take your bed." "You can and you will. I've slept in worse places than a clean barn." He pushed open the door and set her bag inside. "There's water in the basin, food in the pantry. Help yourself to whatever you need." Clara stepped into the cabin and felt something in her chest crack open. It was clean, simple, safe. Everything Marcus's place had probably never been. Mr. Turner. Caleb. Caleb. His name felt strange on her tongue. "Why are you really doing this?" He leaned against the doorframe, his expression unreadable in the gathering darkness. "Because you deserve better than what happened to you today. Because I have space, and you need it. And because—" He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "Because sometimes life gives us a chance to do the right thing, and I'm tired of watching people ignore those chances. You don't even know me." "No, but I know abandonment when I see it. And I know it leaves marks that never quite fade." He touched the brim of his hat. "Get some rest, Miss Whitfield. Tomorrow's a new day." He was gone before Clara could respond, his footsteps fading toward the barn. She stood in the doorway of his cabin, not hers. She reminded herself and let the tears come. Not tears of despair this time, tears of something she couldn't quite name. Relief, maybe, or gratitude, or just the overwhelming weight of a day that had broken her and somehow impossibly put her back together again. She didn't sleep that night. She lay on Caleb Turner's bed, clean sheets, worn quilt, the scent of soap and leather, and stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of what her life had become in the span of a few hours. Boston felt like a lifetime ago. The promises in Marcus's letters felt like someone else's memories. And this stranger who'd offered her shelter felt like the only real thing she'd encountered since leaving home. When dawn broke, Clara washed her face and braided her hair with trembling fingers. She could hear Caleb moving around outside, and she knew she couldn't hide in this cabin forever. She had to face him, had to figure out what came next. She found him near the barn repairing a fence post. He looked up when she approached, his expression neutral. "Morning," he said. "Good morning." Clara clasped her hands in front of her, suddenly uncertain. "I wanted to thank you, for last night, for everything." "No thanks needed." "Still, you didn't have to help me." Caleb set down his hammer. "Listen, Miss Whitfield." "Clara, please. Clara." He studied her for a moment. "I'm going to be straight with you. You can stay here as long as you need to. Work alongside me on the ranch, earn your keep. I won't ask for anything you're not willing to give, and I won't make you feel beholden. When you're ready to move on, whether that's next week or next year, you can go with my blessing. But while you're here, you're under my protection. That means nobody disrespects you. Nobody questions your worth. And nobody," his voice hardened, "treats you the way Marcus Hendricks treated you yesterday." Clara's throat constricted. That's more than generous." "It's not generous. It's just how things should be. Most men wouldn't see it that way." "I'm not most men." Caleb picked up his hammer again. "Now can you cook?" The abrupt change of subject made Clara blink. "Yes, why?" "Because I'm terrible at it, and I'm tired of burning everything I touch. If you can make breakfast without setting the kitchen on fire, you're already worth more to this ranch than half the hands I've hired over the years." A small, unexpected laugh escaped Clara's lips. "I think I can manage that." "Good. Then we have a deal." Clara spent that first morning cooking while Caleb worked outside. She made biscuits and gravy-fried eggs and bacon coffee strong enough to strip paint. When she called him in to eat, he studied the spread with something close to wonder. "This is—" He sat down slowly. "This is the first real meal I've had in months. You're not a good cook." "I'm a disaster." He bit into a biscuit and closed his eyes. "Lord, this is good." Clara felt a flush of pride she hadn't experienced in months. "My mother taught me. She said a woman should always know how to feed people properly, whether she's feeding kings or cowboys." Smart woman. She was. Clara's smile faded. She died 2 years ago. That's partly why I answered Marcus's advertisement. I had nothing keeping me in Boston anymore. Caleb set down his fork. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not offering it. I'm offering understanding. My mother died when I was 15. My father followed 6 months later. I know what it's like to be alone. They ate in silence for a while. Clara watched Caleb from across the table, noting the way he ate methodically appreciatively, without the rushed manners some men had. There was a deliberateness to everything he did, a quiet confidence that spoke of a man who knew exactly who he was and didn't apologize for it. Can I ask you something? Clara said finally. Go ahead. Why aren't you married? You have land, a home, stability. Surely women have... I was married once. Caleb's voice was flat. She died in childbirth. The baby too. That was 7 years ago. Clara felt her chest tighten. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have... You didn't know. And I've made peace with it, mostly. He met her eyes. I learned something from losing her, though. I learned that life doesn't promise you forever. It promises you right now. And what you do with right now matters more than any plan you make for tomorrow. Is that why you helped me yesterday? Partly. And partly because I saw something in you. A kind of strength that most people don't recognize until they need it. You could have crumpled on that road. But you didn't. I wanted to. Wanting to and doing it are different things. Caleb stood and carried his plate to the basin. Thank you for breakfast. It meant something. Clara watched him walk back outside, and she felt something shift in her understanding of this man. He wasn't just kind. He was wounded in ways that matched her own wounds, and somehow that made his kindness even more valuable. The days that followed fell into a rhythm that surprised Clara with its comfort. She cooked and cleaned, tended the small vegetable garden behind the cabin, mended Caleb's clothes with careful stitches. He worked the land from sunup to sundown, pausing only for the meals she prepared. They spoke little, but the silence between them wasn't empty. It was full of things neither of them knew how to say yet. On the 4th day, Caleb came in for supper, looking troubled. What's wrong? Clara asked, setting a plate in front of him. I need to go into town tomorrow. Get supplies, handle some business. He hesitated. You should probably come with me. Clara's stomach dropped. Why? Because people are going to talk. They're going to ask questions about who you are and why you're here. Better they hear it from you than make up their own stories. What should I tell them? The truth, that you're working for me, earning your keep. Nothing more, nothing less. And if they don't believe that's all it is... Caleb's jaw tightened. Then they can answer to me. The ride into town the next morning made Clara's nerves sing with tension. She'd barely slept imagining all the ways this could go wrong. The whispers, the judgment, the knowing looks from women who'd never had to choose between survival and pride. The town of Silver Creek was smaller than she'd expected, a main street lined with storefronts, a church, a saloon, and not much else. People turned to stare as Caleb helped her down from the wagon. Stay close, he murmured. They'd barely made it to the general store when a woman's voice cut through the morning air. Well, well, Caleb Turner with a lady friend. I never thought I'd see the day. The woman was tall, auburn-haired, dressed in a blue calico that hugged her figure in ways Clara's traveling dress never would. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Morning, Lenora, Caleb said evenly. Aren't you going to introduce us? Lenora's gaze swept over Clara like she was assessing livestock. This is Miss Clara Whitfield. She's working at the ranch. Working? Lenora's smile sharpened. How progressive of you, Caleb. Taking in help. Clara felt heat rise in her cheeks, but before she could respond, Caleb stepped between them. Miss Whitfield is under my employ and my protection, he said, his voice carrying across the street. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. Lenora's eyes widened slightly. I didn't mean any offense. Then watch your tone. Caleb took Clara's arm and guided her into the store. Inside, Clara's hands shook as she pretended to examine fabric bolts. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did. Lenora Briggs has a tongue sharper than any knife, and she knows how to use it. If I'd let her have that first cut, she'd have drawn blood." "Who is she?" "Someone who expected a different outcome years ago." Caleb handed Clara a list. "Can you gather these items? I need to speak with the clerk about an order." Clara took the list, grateful for something to do with her hands. As she moved through the store, she could feel eyes on her, the other shoppers watching, whispering. She kept her chin up and her movements deliberate, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her falter. She was reaching for a sack of flour when she heard the voice behind her. "You must be the mail-order bride Marcus didn't want." Clara turned slowly. The speaker was a woman about her age, blonde and pretty, with a baby on her hip, and judgment in her eyes. "I'm Clara Whitfield," Clara said quietly. "I know who you are. Everyone knows. Marcus rode through town yesterday, told everyone about the woman from Boston, who thought she could trap him into marriage. Said you weren't what you claimed to be in your letters." The lies hit Clara like physical blows. "That's not... Isn't it because the way I hear it, you're already living with another man? Quick work, Miss Whitfield. Or is it even Miss Maybe that's what Marcus discovered? Maybe that's why he left you on the road." Clara's vision blurred red. Every instinct screamed at her to defend herself, to explain, to make this stranger understand. But another part of her, the part that had been building slowly over the past 4 days, recognized the truth. It didn't matter what she said. People would believe what they wanted to believe. "You're right," Clara said, her voice steady despite the rage coursing through her. "You don't know me. You don't know what happened. And you're choosing to believe the word of a man who abandoned a woman on a roadside rather than honor his commitment. That tells me everything I need to know about you." The woman's face reddened. "How dare you?" "I dare because I have nothing left to lose. Marcus Hendricks took everything from me except my dignity, and I'll be damned if I let strangers finish what he started." Clara picked up the flour sack with hands that no longer shook. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do." She walked past the woman with her head high, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst through her ribs. She found Caleb near the front counter, saw him register the storm in her expression. "Time to go?" he asked quietly. "Past time." They loaded the wagon in silence. Clara could feel the entire town watching, could practically hear the gossip spreading like wildfire. She climbed onto the wagon seat and stared straight ahead, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Caleb snapped the reins, and they rolled out of Silver Creek without another word. They were halfway back to the ranch when Caleb finally spoke. "You handled that well." Clara laughed bitterly. "Did I? Because I feel like I just made everything worse." "You stood your ground. That's not making it worse. That's surviving." "Is this what my life is going to be now? Fighting for my reputation in a town that's already decided who I am?" "For a while, maybe. But people's memories are shorter than they think. Give it time. Let your actions speak louder than their gossip." Clara turned to look at him. "Why do you have so much faith in me?" "Because you remind me of someone." "Your wife?" "My mother." Caleb's grip tightened on the reins. "She came west alone after my father died back east. Everyone said she was crazy, that she'd never make it. But she built a life anyway. Raised me on pure stubbornness and determination. You have that same fire in you. I saw it the moment I found you on that road. Your mother sounds remarkable. She was. Right up until the day she couldn't be anymore." He glanced at Clara. "She would have liked you." The word settled over Clara like a benediction. She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. Just sat beside this man who kept surprising her with his quiet wisdom and his unexpected faith. That night after supper, Clara sat on the cabin's porch while Caleb worked on repairing a saddle. The sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. It was beautiful in a way Boston had never been. Harsh and unforgiving, yes, but honest. Real. "Can I ask you something?" Clara said. Caleb looked up from his work. "Always." Do you regret it bringing me here? No. Not even a little. Not even after today. Especially not after today. He set down the saddle. You proved something to yourself in that store, Clara. You proved you could face their judgment and not break. That's worth more than any reputation they could give or take away. It doesn't feel like victory. Victory rarely does in the moment. Give it time. Clara wrapped her arms around herself. I don't know what I'm doing here, Caleb. I don't know what I'm building or where I'm going. I just know I can't go back to who I was before. Then don't. Be someone new. Build something different. Is it that simple? Nothing's simple, but it is possible. He stood and stretched his joints, popping softly. I'm headed to bed. Don't stay out here too late. The coyotes get bold after dark. Clara watched him disappear into the barn, and she felt the weight of the day finally settle onto her shoulders. She was exhausted, angry, confused. But underneath all of that, buried deep beneath the fear and uncertainty, was something else. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Didn't know if she could build a life here, or if the town's judgment would crush her before she had the chance. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Caleb Turner had given her something Marcus Hendricks never could. Not just shelter or protection, but the space to become whoever she was meant to be. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Clara woke the next morning to the sound of something breaking in the barn. She was dressed and out the door before her mind fully caught up with her body. The barn door stood open, and inside she could hear Caleb's voice, low, angry, directed at someone. I don't care what Marcus told you. You're not welcome here. Come on, Turner. I just want to talk to her. Clara's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice. Marcus Hendricks. She stepped into the barn doorway, and both men turned. Marcus looked exactly as she remembered, handsome in that polished way that had once impressed her, wearing clothes too fine for ranch work. Caleb stood between them, his posture rigid. Clara. Marcus smiled like they were old friends. You're looking well. What are you doing here? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. I made a mistake. I want to fix it. Caleb moved slightly, blocking Marcus's view of her. You need to leave. This doesn't concern you, Turner. Marcus's smile hardened. Clara and I have business to discuss. We have nothing to discuss, Clara said. You made yourself clear on that road. I was hasty. I was wrong. Marcus took a step forward, and Caleb's hand dropped to the knife on his belt. I received some bad news that day. My father's business had failed back east. I took it out on you, and I shouldn't have. I'm asking for another chance. Clara felt something twist in her stomach. A chance at what? At what we planned. Marriage, a life together. You don't want a life with me. You want a housekeeper you don't have to pay. Marcus's expression flickered. That's not fair. Fair. Clara's laugh was sharp. You left me on a roadside and told the entire town I was damaged goods. You spread lies about me. And now you show up here expecting me to fall into your arms with gratitude. I can give you security, a home, respectability. Marcus's eyes cut to Caleb. Which is more than whatever arrangement you have here. Get out. Caleb's voice was deadly quiet. Or what you'll make me, Marcus sneered. Everyone knows what this is, Turner. You've got yourself a convenient woman, and you're hiding behind the pretense of employment. At least I'm offering her an honest proposal. Caleb moved so fast, Clara barely saw it. One moment he was standing still, the next he had Marcus by the collar, slamming him against the barn wall. Say that again, Caleb growled. I dare you. Caleb, don't. Clara grabbed his arm. He's not worth it. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Caleb released Marcus and stepped back, his breathing hard. You have 10 seconds to get off my property, Caleb said. After that, I'm not responsible for what happens. Marcus straightened his collar, his face red. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Clara stepped forward, forcing herself to meet Marcus's eyes. I wouldn't marry you if you were the last man in Montana. You're a coward and a liar, and I deserve better than anything you could ever give me." Marcus's expression turned ugly. "You'll regret this. Both of you." He stormed out of the barn. They heard his horse galloping away moments later. Clara's legs went weak. She sat down on a hay bale, her hands shaking. "Are you all right?" Caleb asked. "I don't know. Am I?" She looked up at him. "Did I just make everything worse?" "No. You just made it clear where you stand. That's never the wrong choice. He's going to tell everyone I'm living with you in sin. The gossip will be unbearable." "Let it be unbearable. We know the truth." Clara wanted to believe him. But she'd seen the way Lenora Briggs looked at her in town. She knew how quickly whispers could destroy a woman's reputation. And now Marcus would fan those flames with everything he had. "I should leave," she said quietly, "before this gets worse for you." "Where would you go?" "I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere that's not here dragging your name through the mud." Caleb knelt in front of her, his eyes level with hers. "Listen to me. I don't care what they say. I don't care what Marcus tells them. You're staying here because you want to, not because you have to. And if anyone has a problem with that, they can take it up with me. Understood?" Clara felt tears burn her eyes. "Why are you so kind to me?" "Because somebody should be. And because—" He hesitated. "Because having you here has made this place feel less empty than it has in years. I'm not ready to give that up yet." The admission hung between them raw and honest. Clara didn't know what to say, so she just nodded. They spent the rest of the morning in silence working side by side. Clara helped Caleb mend fence posts, learning to hammer with steady strikes while he held the wood in place. The physical work felt good, clearing her mind of everything except the rhythm of swing and strike, swing and strike. Around noon, a wagon appeared on the horizon. "Company," Caleb said, squinting. "That's Sarah Jacobson's rig." "Who's Sarah Jacobson?" "Owns the bakery in town. Good woman. Fair-minded." He set down his hammer. "This should be interesting." Sarah Jacobson was a sturdy woman in her 50s, with flour-dusted hands and eyes that missed nothing. She climbed down from her wagon carrying a covered basket. "Morning, Caleb," she said. "And you must be Miss Whitfield." "Clara, please." "Clara, then." Sarah handed her the basket. "Brought you some bread and preserves. Figured you could use a friendly face after yesterday's welcome." Clara peeked under the cloth. Fresh bread, 3 jars of preserves, and what looked like cinnamon rolls. Her throat tightened. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just know that not everyone in Silver Creek is like Lenora Briggs." Sarah glanced at Caleb. "Mind if I borrow Clara for a bit? Woman talk?" Caleb looked at Clara, who nodded. "I'll be fine." They sat on the porch while Caleb returned to his work. Sarah poured them both coffee from a thermos she'd brought. "I'm going to be straight with you," Sarah said. "The town's talking. Marcus came through this morning, told everyone his version of events. It's not pretty." Clara's stomach dropped. "What's he saying?" "That you lied in your letters. That you were already involved with someone back east and were trying to trap him. That when he found out he ended things and you immediately moved in with the first man who'd have you." "None of that is true." "I know. I've known Marcus Hendricks since he was a boy, and I know a liar when I see one." Sarah sipped her coffee. "But truth doesn't always matter when gossip's involved. People like a good story, and right now you're the main character in one. So what do I do?" "You live your life. You work hard. You show them who you really are through your actions, not your words." Sarah's expression softened. "And you don't let them make you feel ashamed for surviving." "Is that what you think I'm doing? Surviving? Isn't it you got thrown into impossible circumstances and you made the best choice you could? That takes courage, not shame." Clara felt something loosen in her chest. "Thank you for saying that. I'm saying it because it's true, and because I know what it's like to be judged by people who don't know the whole story." Sarah stood. "I should get back. But Clara, if you need anything at all, you come find me. You're not alone in this." After Sarah left, Clara sat on the porch for a long time thinking. She'd expected judgment, expected cruelty, but Sarah's kindness felt like a lifeline she hadn't known she needed. That evening, Caleb came in for supper, looking troubled. "What happened?" Clara asked. "Got word from town. Marcus is organizing something. A petition, maybe, trying to force me to send you away." Clara's hands stilled over the stew she was stirring. "Can he do that?" "He can try. Won't work, but he can try." "Caleb, don't." He held up his hand. "Don't even suggest leaving again. I told you you're under my protection. That means something to me, even if it means nothing to Marcus Hendricks. But if the whole town turns against you, then the whole town can go to hell." He sat down heavily. "I've lived in Silver Creek for 15 years. Built this ranch from nothing. Helped my neighbors when they needed it, asked for nothing in return. If they choose to believe Marcus's lies over what they know about me, then they were never my friends to begin with." Clara served him stew, her mind racing. "There has to be something we can do, some way to prove Marcus is lying. Truth isn't about proof. It's about who people want to believe." "That's not good enough." Caleb looked at her sharply. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking Marcus is counting on me staying quiet, on me hiding out here like I'm ashamed. What if I don't? What if you don't? What? Hide. What if I go into town work, contribute, show them I'm not some fallen woman looking for a free ride?" "That's dangerous, Clara. The gossip will be there whether I hide or not. At least this way I control my own story." Caleb studied her for a long moment. "You're serious about this?" "Completely." "All right, then we do it your way, but we do it smart. We do it together." The next morning they rode into Silver Creek side by side. Clara wore her best dress, her hair pinned up properly, her spine straight. She could feel eyes on her the moment they entered town, but she kept her gaze forward. "Where are we going?" she asked. "General store. You're going to help Mrs. Henderson with inventory." "Does Mrs. Henderson know this?" "She does now." Martha Henderson was a sharp-eyed woman who ran the general store with ruthless efficiency. She looked up when they entered, her expression neutral. "Caleb. Miss Whitfield." "Mrs. Henderson." Caleb removed his hat. "I have a proposition for you." "I'm listening. You mentioned last month that you needed help with inventory and bookkeeping. Clara here has experience with both. She's offering her services 3 days a week, no charge, in exchange for the opportunity to prove herself to this town." Martha's eyes narrowed. "Why would I agree to that?" "Because you're a businesswoman who knows good help when she sees it," Clara said, stepping forward. "And because I'm willing to work harder than anyone you'd pay to do the same job. Give me 1 week. If I'm not valuable to you, I'll walk away and never ask again." Martha studied her for a long moment. "You can start Monday, 8 o'clock sharp. If you're late, the offer's void." "I'll be here at 7:30. Outside, Clara felt like she could finally breathe. "That was terrifying." "That was brave," Caleb corrected. "And smart. Martha Henderson's respect is worth more than 100 petitions from Marcus Hendricks." "Let's hope you're right." Monday morning came too fast. Clara arrived at the general store at 7:15, her stomach in knots. Martha was already there counting stock. "You're early," Martha said without looking up. "I don't believe in wasting time." "Good. Neither do I. These shelves need organizing and the books are a disaster. Think you can handle it?" "Yes, ma'am." Clara worked until her back ached and her fingers cramped. She organized shelves, reconciled accounts, helped customers with a smile that felt more genuine as the day went on. Some people were kind, others were cold. A few were outright cruel, asking pointed questions about her arrangement with Caleb Turner. Clara answered them all with the same calm dignity. "I work for Mr. Turner. I earn my keep. If you have further questions, you can direct them to him." By the end of the week, Martha's expression had shifted from skeptical to approving. "You're good at this," Martha said on Friday afternoon. "Better than I expected." "Thank you. I'm not offering you a permanent position, not yet, but I'm willing to keep you on for another month. We'll see how it goes." Clara felt something like victory settle in her chest. "I won't disappoint you." That night she told Caleb about Martha's offer. He smiled, really smiled, something she'd rarely seen. "See, I told you. Actions speak louder than gossip. It's just one person. It's a start, and starts matter more than you think." Over the next few weeks, Clara's routine solidified. 3 days at the general store, the rest at the ranch. She learned the rhythms of both places, learned which customers to charm and which to handle with efficiency. She learned how Caleb liked his coffee, how he tensed up when storms rolled in, how he'd lost his wife in a spring flood that had swept her away while she was trying to save their livestock. He told her that story one night after supper, his voice flat and distant. "I should have stopped her, should have made her stay inside." "You can't control the weather, Caleb." "No, but I could have controlled whether I let her go out in it. And if you'd tried to stop her, she would have resented you for it. You said she was stubborn. Like a mule. Then you know she would have gone anyway. You would have just fought about it first." Caleb looked at her, something shifting in his expression. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm not wise. I just know what it's like to carry guilt that isn't really yours to carry." "What guilt do you carry?" Clara hesitated. "I blamed myself for my mother's death. She got sick and I couldn't save her. I kept thinking if I'd noticed the symptoms earlier, if I'd called the doctor sooner, if I'd done something different, it wouldn't have mattered." "Probably not. But I convinced myself it would have. And I carried that weight until it nearly crushed me." "What changed?" "I realized I was giving myself credit for powers I never had. I couldn't control her illness any more than you could control that flood. All we can control is how we move forward." Caleb was quiet for a long moment. "Thank you for telling me that. Thank you for listening." Something shifted between them that night. A wall came down, or maybe a door opened. Clara wasn't sure which, but she felt the change like a physical thing. The next day, Marcus showed up at the general store. Clara was restocking flour when she heard the bell over the door chime. She looked up and felt her entire body go cold. "Hello, Clara," Marcus said. Martha appeared from the back room, her expression hardening. "Mr. Hendricks, what can I do for you?" "I need to speak with Clara, privately." "No," Clara said flatly. "Please, 5 minutes." "I said no." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to make amends here. The least you could do is hear me out." "The least I could do is ask you to leave," Clara said. "Which I'm doing, now." "You can't keep hiding behind other people forever. Eventually, you're going to have to face the consequences of your choices." "The only consequence I'm facing is having to look at you." "Martha, do you want me to call Caleb, or will you—" Martha crossed her arms. "Mr. Hendricks, you have 10 seconds to leave my store before I personally throw you out. And don't think I can't do it." Marcus held up his hands. "Fine, I'm going. But Clara, this isn't over. You're making a mistake choosing Turner over me." "The only mistake I made was ever answering your letter." After Marcus left, Clara's hands shook so badly she had to sit down. "Are you all right?" Martha asked. "I will be, eventually." "That man is poison." "I know. I just wish everyone else knew it too." But slowly, gradually, people were starting to figure it out. Clara's steady presence at the general store, her quiet competence, her refusal to engage with gossip, it all added up to something that contradicted Marcus's story. People began to question, began to wonder, and some began to take Clara's side. Sarah Jacobson was the first to speak publicly in Clara's defense. She did it at church on Sunday when Lenora Briggs made a snide comment about women of questionable virtue. "If we're talking about virtue," Sarah said loudly, "then we should probably discuss men who abandon women on roadsides, or men who spread lies to protect their own pride. But I don't hear anyone questioning Marcus Hendricks's virtue. Funny how that works." The church went silent. Lenora's face turned bright red. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." Lenora protested. "No, you're saying what you're thinking. The rest of us have eyes. We can see Clara Whitfield working hard, conducting herself with dignity, earning her own way. If that's questionable virtue, Then I'd like to know what your definition of virtue is. When Clara heard about it later from 3 different people who couldn't wait to tell her, she went straight to Sarah's bakery. "You didn't have to do that," Clara said. "Yes, I did. Somebody needed to say it." Sarah wiped flour from her hands. "Besides, I'm tired of watching good people get torn down by small-minded gossip." "You're one of the good ones, Clara. I see it. Others are starting to see it too." "Thank you doesn't seem like enough." "Then just keep being yourself. That's thanks enough for me." That evening, Clara told Caleb about Sarah's defense. They were sitting on the porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. "People are starting to see the truth," Caleb said. "It's slow, but it's happening. Do you think Marcus will give up? No, men like Marcus don't give up. They escalate." "What does that mean?" "It means we need to be ready for whatever he does next." Caleb's prediction came true 3 days later. Marcus filed a formal complaint with the territorial marshal, claiming Caleb was harboring a woman of ill repute and violating public decency laws. The marshal, a tired-looking man named Tom Granger, showed up at the ranch on a Thursday afternoon. "Caleb," he said, tipping his hat. "Miss Whitfield, I need to ask you both some questions." "Ask away," Caleb said. "Mr. Hendricks claims Miss Whitfield is living here without proper supervision or chaperone. He's demanding I enforce the territorial codes regarding cohabitation." Clara felt her face burn. "I have my own room. I work for my keep. There's nothing improper about our arrangement." "I believe you, ma'am. But the law's the law, and I have to follow it." Granger looked uncomfortable. "Unless there's a legal reason for Miss Whitfield to be here, family relation, formal employment contract engagement, I'm going to have to ask her to find other accommodations." "You're joking," Caleb said. "I wish I was. But Hendricks has the mayor's ear and the mayor's pushing this hard. If I don't enforce it, I lose my job." Clara and Caleb exchanged looks. She could see the frustration in his eyes, the anger at a system that punished people for trying to survive. "How much time do I have?" Clara asked quietly. "Week. Maybe 2 if I can stall. I'm sorry, Miss Whitfield. I truly am." After Granger left, Clara sat down on the porch steps, her mind spinning. "There has to be a way around this," Caleb said. "There isn't. Marcus made sure of that. I could hire you officially, draw up a contract. You think that'll satisfy the mayor? He's looking for any excuse to run me out of town? Then what do we do?" Clara looked up at him, and suddenly, impossibly, she knew exactly what they had to do. It was insane, reckless, completely against everything she'd planned for her life. But it was also the only option that made sense. "We get married," she said. Caleb stared at her like she'd just suggested they burn down the town. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. We get married." Clara stood up, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. "It solves everything. I'd have a legal right to be here. Marcus's complaint becomes meaningless. The marshal has no grounds to force me out. Clara, that's the only solution that makes sense. You said it yourself, I need a legal reason to be here. Marriage is about as legal as it gets." Caleb turned away from her, his hands clenched at his sides. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious. This is insane. You're talking about marriage, not a business arrangement." "Why can't it be both?" Clara moved around to face him. "You need help on this ranch. I need a home. We already work well together. Why not make it official?" "Because marriage is..." Caleb stopped his jaw working. "It's not something you do just to solve a problem. People get married for worse reasons. At least we respect each other." "Respect isn't enough. It's more than most people start with." Clara felt desperation crawling up her spine. "Caleb, I have 1 week before the marshal forces me out. Where am I supposed to go? Back to Boston? I have nothing there, nothing anywhere except what we've built here. There has to be another way. Name it, please, because I've been thinking about this all afternoon, and I can't see one." Caleb was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough. "What about what you want? What about love, companionship, all those things people are supposed to have in a marriage? What about them?" Do you think I'm going to find those things being run out of town? Do you think any man is going to want me after Marcus finishes destroying my reputation? Clara's voice cracked. This is my chance at a life, Caleb. Maybe not the life I dreamed about, but a real one. With someone who's shown me more kindness in a few weeks than Marcus showed me in 6 months of letters. You deserve better than a marriage of convenience. And you deserve better than losing your wife in a flood. But we don't always get what we deserve. We get what we make of what we're given. Caleb looked at her, then really looked at her, and Clara saw something shift in his expression. Not acceptance exactly, but consideration. If we did this, he said slowly, it would have to be on equal terms. You wouldn't be my property or my servant. You'd be my partner. I wouldn't accept anything less, and if you changed your mind later, if you wanted out, then we'd figure it out, together. Clara took a breath. I'm not asking you to love me, Caleb. I'm asking you to give me a chance to build something real, and I hope you might want the same thing. He studied her for what felt like forever. Then he held out his hand. All right, we'll do it, but we do it right. None of this courthouse nonsense. If we're getting married, we're doing it in front of the whole damn town, so nobody can say it wasn't legitimate. Clara took his hand, and she felt the weight of what they were about to do settle over both of them. When? Sunday, after church. That gives us 3 days to prepare. 3 days isn't much time. It's enough. Caleb's grip tightened on her hand. Are you sure about this, Clara? Because once we do this, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue, but she told it anyway. Because the truth was, she wasn't sure at all. She was terrified. But terror and certainty could coexist, and right now, marrying Caleb Turner felt like the only solid ground in a world that kept trying to pull her under. The next morning, they rode into town together. Clara's hands were steady on the reins, but inside every part of her was screaming that this was madness. Their first stop was the church. Reverend Matthews was a stern man with kind eyes who'd given Clara a nod of approval the few times she'd attended services. Caleb, he said, looking up from his sermon notes. Miss Whitfield, what brings you here? We want to get married, Caleb said. Sunday after services. Will you perform the ceremony? Reverend Matthews's eyebrows rose. That's rather sudden. It's necessary. Clara stepped forward. I'm sure you've heard about Marshal Granger's visit, about Marcus Hendricks's complaint. I have, and I've heard a lot of other things too. The Reverend set down his pen. Are you both certain this is what you want? Marriage is a sacred bond, not a solution to legal troubles. It's both, Caleb said. I won't lie to you, Reverend. This started as a practical decision. But Clara and I have built something worth protecting, worth making permanent. And you, Miss Whitfield, do you agree with that assessment? Clara met the Reverend's eyes. I do. Caleb has shown me what real partnership looks like, what mutual respect means. I'd be proud to be his wife. Reverend Matthews studied them both for a long moment. Then he nodded. Very well. Sunday after services. I'll make the announcement this week so the whole congregation knows. Thank you, Clara said. Don't thank me yet. You're about to face some very difficult questions from very nosy people. I hope you're prepared for that. They weren't. Not really. But they tried. Word spread through Silver Creek faster than fire through dry grass. By noon, everyone knew. By evening, the gossip had reached epic proportions. Clara heard 3 different versions of the story, just walking from the general store to the boarding house, where Martha had offered her a room for propriety's sake until the wedding. They're getting married because she trapped him. They're getting married because he compromised her. They're getting married to spite Marcus Hendricks. Only the last one had any truth to it, but Clara kept her mouth shut and her head high. Sarah Jacobson found her at the boarding house that evening carrying a bundle wrapped in brown paper. I thought you might need this, Sarah said, handing it to Clara. Inside was a dress. Simple white cotton with lace at the collar and cuffs. Nothing fancy, but clean and new and clearly made with care. Sarah, I can't. You can, and you will. Every woman deserves to feel beautiful on her wedding day, even if the wedding isn't exactly conventional. Sarah's expression softened. I know this isn't how you planned things, but I also know Caleb Turner and he's a good man. If you're marrying him, you're making a smart choice. Am I? Because half the time I'm convinced I've lost my mind. Marriage always feels a bit like madness at first. The trick is figuring out if it's the good kind or the bad kind. And how do you tell the difference? You don't, not right away. You just have to trust that you made the best decision you could with the information you had. Sarah squeezed Clara's hand. For what it's worth, I think you and Caleb will surprise each other. In good ways. After Sarah left, Clara tried on the dress. It fit perfectly. She stared at herself in the small mirror, and she barely recognized the woman looking back. She'd left Boston as someone else entirely full of hope and naive expectations. Now she was about to marry a man she'd known for less than 2 months, and the strangest part was that it felt right. Not safe. Not comfortable. But right. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Clara worked at the general store, fielded questions she refused to answer, and tried not to think about what Sunday would bring. Caleb kept himself busy at the ranch, only coming into town once to speak with the marshal. Told him about the wedding, Caleb said when Clara asked. He seemed relieved, said it solved his problem nicely. I'm so glad our marriage solves his problem, Clara said dryly. It solves ours too. That's what matters. But on Saturday night, lying alone in the boarding house room, Clara wondered if they were solving a problem or creating a bigger one. What happened after the ceremony? Would Caleb expect her to share his bed? Would he expect her to love him? Could she love him given enough time? Did she want to? She didn't sleep. When dawn came, she was already dressed and pacing. Martha found her in the boarding house parlor wearing a path in the rug. You look like you're about to jump out of your skin, Martha observed. I'm getting married in 4 hours to a man I barely know because a territorial marshal gave me an ultimatum. Of course I'm about to jump out of my skin. Do you trust him? Caleb. Yes, completely. Then you'll be fine. Trust is harder to find than love. Love you can build. Trust either exists or it doesn't. Clara wanted to believe that. She wanted to believe this was all going to work out somehow. The church was packed when they arrived. Clara walked down the aisle alone, carrying wildflowers Sarah had picked that morning. She'd expected whispers, judgment-cruel smiles. Instead, she found something unexpected: curiosity. Yes, but also a strange sort of respect. She was the woman who'd survived Marcus Hendrix's cruelty and built something better. That counted for something, apparently. Caleb stood at the altar in a clean shirt and new vest, his hair slicked back, his expression unreadable. When Clara reached him, he offered his hand and she took it. Reverend Matthews began the ceremony. Clara heard the words, dearly beloved, lawful union, sacred bond, but they seemed to come from very far away. All she could focus on was Caleb's hand holding hers steady and warm and real. Do you, Caleb Turner, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. And do you, Clara Whitfield, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Clara opened her mouth. The words should have been simple. 2 syllables, 1 commitment. But they stuck in her throat, and for a horrible moment she couldn't speak. Then she looked at Caleb. Really looked at him. And she saw not the stranger who'd found her on a roadside, but the man who'd defended her honor, protected her reputation, given her a chance when no one else would. I do, she said. Then by the power vested in me by the Montana Territory, I pronounce you husband and wife. The church erupted in applause. Clara felt Caleb's hand tighten on hers, and then he was pulling her close, pressing a kiss to her forehead that felt more like a promise than a show for the crowd. We did it, he murmured against her hair. We did. No going back now. I don't want to go back. They turned to face the congregation, and Clara saw faces she recognized. Sarah beaming, Martha nodding approval. Even a few people who'd been cruel before looked thoughtful now, like they were reconsidering their earlier judgments. And then she saw Marcus. He stood at the back of the church, his face twisted with rage. Their eyes met across the crowd, and Clara felt a chill run down her spine. This wasn't over. Not for him. But she was Mrs. Clara Turner now, and that changed everything. The reception was held at Sarah's bakery. People brought food, offered congratulations that ranged from sincere to skeptical. Clara smiled until her face hurt, accepted well wishes from people who'd ignored her days before, and tried not to think about the fact that she'd just married a man for legal protection. Lenora Briggs cornered her near the punch bowl. "Well," Lenora said, her smile sharp, "you certainly landed on your feet. From abandoned bride to rancher's wife in less than 2 months. Impressive." "Thank you," Clara said evenly. "I wasn't complimenting you." "I know, but I'm choosing to take it as one anyway." Clara met Lenora's eyes. "I'm not going anywhere, Lenora. I'm Caleb's wife now. That means I'm part of this community whether you like it or not. We'll see how long that lasts." "Yes, we will." After Lenora left, Sarah appeared at Clara's elbow. "That looked intense." "Lenora doesn't approve of me." "Lenora doesn't approve of anyone who isn't Lenora. Ignore her." Sarah handed Clara a glass of punch. "How are you holding up?" "I have no idea. Ask me tomorrow." "Fair enough. Just remember you're not alone in this. You have allies now." Clara looked around the bakery at the faces watching her. Some friendly, some neutral, some openly hostile. "More than you think. Give them time. They'll come around." That night, Clara and Caleb rode back to the ranch in silence. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. Clara's wedding dress felt heavy, constricting. She wanted to rip it off and throw it in the dirt. "You all right?" Caleb asked. "I don't know what I am." "That's honest, at least." They reached the ranch. Caleb helped her down from the wagon, and they stood in the yard, neither quite willing to take the next step. "We should talk about expectations," Caleb said finally. "All right." "I'm not expecting anything from you. Physically, I mean. This marriage, it's legal, but it doesn't have to be complete. Not until you're ready. If you're ever ready." Clara felt something loosen in her chest. "Thank you for saying that. I mean it. You take the bedroom. I'll stay in the barn until—" "No." The word came out sharper than she intended. "This is your home, Caleb. I won't force you out of it." "Then what do you suggest?" Clara thought about it. "We share the cabin. You take the bedroom. I'll take the main room. We give each other space and see what develops naturally. And if nothing develops, then we're business partners who happen to be married. There are worse arrangements." Caleb studied her in the fading light. "You're a remarkable woman, Clara Turner." "Turner," Clara repeated. The name felt strange on her tongue. Foreign. "I suppose I'll have to get used to that." "We both will, to all of this." Inside the cabin, Clara changed out of the wedding dress and into her work clothes. The transformation felt symbolic somehow, shedding the pretense, returning to reality. When she came out, Caleb had coffee brewing and bread sliced. "Not much of a wedding feast," he said. "It's perfect." They ate in comfortable silence. Clara kept waiting for awkwardness to descend for the weight of what they'd done to crush them. But it didn't come. Instead, there was just this two people sharing a meal, finding their rhythm. "I saw Marcus at the church," Clara said finally. "So did I." "He looked furious." "Good. Let him be furious. There's nothing he can do now." "Are you sure about that?" Caleb set down his coffee. "Marcus is a bully and a coward, but he's also smart enough to know when he's beaten. We're married. It's legal. It's public. He can rage all he wants, but it won't change the facts." "I hope you're right." "I'm always right. Ask anyone." Clara smiled despite herself. "Is that so?" "Absolutely. It's one of my many virtues." "What are the others?" "Modesty, obviously, and humility. I'm very humble about how right I always am." Clara laughed. Really laughed for the first time in days. Caleb grinned at her, and something passed between them. Not love. Not yet. But the possibility of it. The foundation. That night, Clara lay on the makeshift bed Caleb had set up in the main room, listening to him move around in the bedroom. She'd expected to feel trapped. Instead, she felt something closer to safe. She was married. To a good man. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but it was a life. And that was more than she'd had a week ago. The next morning, Clara woke to find Caleb already gone. There was fresh coffee on the stove and a note. Checking the northern fence. Back by noon. See. Clara smiled at his handwriting. Rough, practical, exactly like the man himself. She drank her coffee, tidied the cabin, and was starting on breakfast when she heard horses approaching. Multiple horses. She went to the window and felt her blood run cold. Marcus rode at the head of a group of 5 men, all armed. Clara grabbed the rifle Caleb kept by the door and stepped onto the porch. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady when she called out. "This is private property. You're not welcome here." Marcus dismounted slowly. "Where's your husband, Mrs. Turner?" "That's none of your concern." "I think it is. I think he left you here alone, which seems awfully careless of him. Almost like he doesn't care what happens to his new bride." "Get off this land, Marcus, now!" "Or what? You'll shoot me. We both know you won't do that." Clara raised the rifle. "Try me." Marcus laughed. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" One of the men with Marcus shifted nervously. "Marcus, maybe we should—" "Shut up, Davis." Marcus took a step forward. "I came here to talk, Clara. Just talk. About the mistake you made yesterday." "I didn't make a mistake. I made a choice." "You made a choice based on fear and desperation. I understand that, and I'm willing to forgive it. The marriage can be annulled. You can come with me and we'll pretend none of this ever happened." Clara felt rage flood through her. "You think I would ever, under any circumstances, choose you over Caleb? You abandoned me on a road. You spread lies about me. You tried to destroy my reputation and force me out of town. And now you show up here with armed men talking about forgiveness? You're out of your mind." "I'm offering you a way out of a marriage you were forced into." "Nobody forced me to do anything. I chose Caleb. I chose this life. And I'd choose it again 1,000 times over before I'd ever choose you." Marcus's expression turned ugly. "You're going to regret this." "The only thing I regret is the time I wasted reading your letters." A voice came from behind the barn. "I believe my wife asked you to leave." Everyone turned. Caleb stepped into view, rifle in hand, his expression deadly calm. "This is between me and Clara," Marcus said. "No, this is between you and me." Caleb walked forward slowly. "You came onto my land, threatened my wife, brought armed men to intimidate her. That's not just disrespectful, it's criminal." "I didn't threaten anyone." "You brought 5 armed men to a ranch where you knew a woman would be alone. What would you call that?" "One of Marcus's men." Davis cleared his throat. "Marcus, I didn't sign up for this. I thought we were just delivering a message." "We are delivering a message," Marcus snapped. "No," Caleb said. "You're trying to bully my wife because you can't accept that she chose someone better than you. But it's done, Marcus. She's my wife. Legally. Publicly. And if you ever come near her again, if you so much as speak her name in town, I will make you regret it. Are we clear?" Marcus's face was bright red. "You can't—" "I can, and I will. Now get off my land before I stop being polite about it." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Davis turned his horse around. "I'm out," Davis said. "This is between you two. Handle it yourselves." The other men followed. Marcus sat alone on his horse, staring at Caleb and Clara with pure hatred. "This isn't over," Marcus said. "Yes," Caleb said quietly. "It is." Marcus wheeled his horse around and galloped away. Clara watched until he was out of sight, then lowered the rifle with shaking hands. Caleb was beside her in an instant. "Are you all right?" "I think so. I don't know." Clara looked up at him. "How did you know to come back?" "I didn't. I forgot my tools and turned around. Lucky timing." "Very lucky." "Clara." Caleb took the rifle from her hands and set it aside. You were going to shoot him, weren't you? If I had to, yes. Something shifted in Caleb's expression. You're braver than I gave you credit for. I was terrified. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. Clara felt tears burn her eyes. He's not going to stop, is he? No, probably not. Caleb's jaw tightened. But we'll deal with it. Together. Together, Clara repeated. The word felt heavier now. More real. She'd married this man to solve a legal problem. But standing here with her heart still racing and Caleb's steady presence beside her, Clara realized they'd crossed some invisible line. This wasn't just a marriage of convenience anymore. This was something else entirely. Something dangerous and complicated and terrifyingly real. And there was no going back. That night changed everything between them, though neither said it out loud. Clara couldn't sleep. Every sound outside made her reach for the rifle Caleb had moved next to her makeshift bed. Every shadow seemed to hold Marcus's face. When dawn finally broke, she was exhausted and wired at the same time. Caleb found her making coffee with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. You need to rest, he said. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see him standing there with those men. He won't come back, not after yesterday. You don't know that. I know Marcus. He's a coward. Cowards don't risk confrontation when they've already lost. Caleb poured himself coffee. But if it makes you feel safer, I'll stay close to the cabin for the next few days. You can't babysit me forever. You have a ranch to run. The ranch can wait. You can't. Clara set down her cup. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Being so kind, so patient. I married you to solve a problem, and now I'm nothing but a burden. Caleb's expression hardened. Don't say that. Don't ever say that. It's true. No, it's not. You work harder than any hand I've ever hired. You've made this place feel like a home again instead of just a building I sleep in. And yesterday, when Marcus showed up with 5 armed men, you stood on that porch with a rifle and didn't back down. That's not a burden. That's courage. Clara felt tears sting her eyes. I was terrified. I know. That's what made it brave. Caleb reached across the table and took her hand. Listen to me. This marriage, it started as a practical solution. But somewhere along the way it became something more. At least for me. And I think maybe for you too. Clara's breath caught. Caleb, I'm not asking you to feel something you don't feel. I'm just saying, I see you, Clara. Really see you. And what I see is a woman worth protecting. Worth standing beside. Worth... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Worth building a real life with. I don't know if I can give you what you deserve. I'm not asking for anything except honesty. Can you do that? Clara nodded slowly. I can try. Then that's enough. They sat in silence for a moment, hands still joined across the table. Then Caleb stood. I'm going to check the livestock. You should eat something. You look like a strong wind could knock you over. After he left, Clara sat alone in the cabin, her mind spinning. She'd told herself this was just survival, just practicality. But Caleb was right. Something had shifted. She cared about him, worried about him, wanted his good opinion in ways that had nothing to do with needing his protection. That scared her more than Marcus ever could. She was washing dishes when she heard a wagon approaching. Her whole body tensed, but when she looked out the window, she saw Sarah Jacobson climbing down with a basket. Morning, Sarah called. Figured you could use some company after yesterday's excitement. Clara opened the door, relief flooding through her. How did you know about that? Honey, this is Silver Creek. Everyone knows everything by sunset. Sarah set the basket on the table. Fresh bread jam and some of that coffee you like. And before you ask, yes, I came to check on you. Word is Marcus showed up here with half the town's troublemakers. Not half, just 5. 5's enough to cause problems. Sarah's expression turned serious. Are you all right? I don't know. I keep thinking it's over, and then something else happens. That's Marcus. He doesn't know how to lose gracefully. Sarah poured them both coffee. But he's making mistakes now, bringing armed men to threaten a woman. People are starting to see him for what he really is. Are they? Because it feels like I'm still the one everyone's judging. Some people, yes, but not as many as before. You stood up to him, Clara, at the church, at the general store, and now at your own home. That counts for something. Does it count enough? Give it time. Trust me, I've lived here 20 years. I know how this town works. They're slow to accept new people, but once they do, they're loyal. Sarah squeezed Clara's hand. You're earning their respect. Don't give up now. After Sarah left, Clara threw herself into work. She cleaned the cabin until it gleamed, mended every piece of clothing that needed it, and started planning a garden expansion. Anything to keep her hands busy and her mind quiet. Caleb came in for lunch looking troubled. What's wrong? Clara asked. Ran into Tom Granger in town. He had some interesting news. About Marcus filed another complaint, this time claiming our marriage is fraudulent. Says we only did it to circumvent the territorial codes. Clara's stomach dropped. Can he do that? He can file whatever he wants. Doesn't mean it'll go anywhere. Caleb sat down heavily. But Granger said the territorial judge is coming through next month. He's going to want to interview us, make sure the marriage is legitimate. How do we prove that we live like a real married couple? We show them we're building a life together. Caleb met her eyes. Which means we might need to make some changes. What kind of changes? We can't keep sleeping in separate rooms, not if we want them to believe this is real. Clara's heart hammered. You said you wouldn't push me. I'm not pushing. I'm telling you what the judge is going to look for. Shared quarters, shared lives, evidence of a genuine partnership. Caleb's voice softened. I won't touch you unless you want me to. But we need to at least appear to be sharing a marriage bed. And if I'm not ready for that, then we figure something else out. But Clara, we're running out of options. Marcus isn't going to stop until he destroys what we've built. We need to make this marriage so obviously real that even he can't challenge it. Clara stood and walked to the window, her mind racing. Everything Caleb said made sense. But the thought of sharing his bed, even platonically, felt like crossing a line she wasn't sure she could come back from. What if I mess this up? She asked quietly. What if you don't? You don't understand. I've never... She stopped, heat flooding her cheeks. I don't know how to be a wife. Not really. Caleb crossed the room and stood beside her. Neither of us knows what we're doing, but we're doing it together. That has to count for something. Does it? I think so. I hope so. He touched her shoulder gently. We don't have to decide right now. Just think about it. We have a few weeks before the judge arrives. But that evening, everything changed again. Clara was preparing supper when she heard shouting from the direction of the barn. She ran outside and found Caleb standing in front of a burning hay bale, stamping out the flames. What happened? She gasped. Someone was here, set fire to the hay. Caleb's face was grim. They're gone now, but the message is clear. Marcus. Probably, though I can't prove it. He kicked dirt over the last of the flames. This is escalating, Clara. Fire's not just harassment, it's attempted destruction of property. Maybe worse. Clara felt cold all over. He's trying to drive us out. Or drive us apart. Make you so afraid that you leave. Caleb gripped her shoulders. I won't let that happen. But we need to be smart about this. I'm going to talk to Granger tomorrow. File a formal complaint. Get this on record. Will that help? It might. Or it might make Marcus more desperate. Caleb's jaw tightened. Either way, we can't let him win. That night, Clara lay in her makeshift bed listening to Caleb move around in the next room. The fire had shaken something loose in her, the realization that Marcus wasn't just trying to humiliate her anymore. He was trying to destroy everything she and Caleb had built. She thought about what Caleb had said about sharing quarters, about making the marriage look real, and she realized something. It wasn't about appearances anymore. It was about survival, about showing Marcus that he couldn't break them. She got up, walked to Caleb's door, and knocked softly. Come in, he called. She pushed open the door. Caleb was sitting on the edge of his bed, still fully dressed, a book in his hands. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "I've been thinking about what you said, about the judge, about making this marriage look real." Clara took a breath. "I think you're right. We need to share this room." Caleb set down his book. "You're sure?" "No, but I'm willing to try. With boundaries. With respect for what I'm not ready for yet." "Always. You have my word." "Then starting tomorrow, I'll move my things in here." Caleb studied her face. "What changed your mind?" "The fire. Realizing that Marcus won't stop unless we show him there's nothing left to attack. That we're solid. Unbreakable." Clara met his eyes. "I trust you, Caleb. That's not something I ever thought I'd say to any man after what Marcus did. But I do. I trust you." Something shifted in Caleb's expression. Relief, maybe, or gratitude. "Thank you for that. I know it wasn't easy to say." "Nothing about this has been easy." "No, but we're still standing. That counts for something." The next morning, Clara moved her belongings into Caleb's room. It didn't take long. She didn't have much. A few dresses, some personal items, the letters from her mother she'd brought from Boston. When everything was arranged, she stood in the doorway and felt the weight of what she'd just done. This was real now. She was sharing a room with her husband. Sleeping in the same space, breathing the same air. It felt intimate in ways that had nothing to do with physical contact. Caleb had rigged up a privacy screen, a sheet hung on a rope that divided the room in half. His side, her side. A boundary she could control. "It's not perfect," he said, "but it's something. It's more than enough." That first night was awkward. Clara changed behind the screen, hyper-aware of every sound Caleb made on the other side. When she finally climbed into her side of the bed, they'd pushed two narrow beds together to make it look like one shared bed. From the outside, she lay rigid, listening to his breathing. "You all right over there?" he asked quietly. "Just adjusting." "Take your time. There's no rush." But there was a rush. Because 3 days later, Marshal Granger showed up with news. "The judge moved up his visit," Granger said. "He'll be here next week instead of next month. Wants to clear the docket before the winter snows." Clara felt panic claw at her throat. "Next week? That's not enough time." "Time for what?" Granger asked. "Nothing," Caleb said quickly. "We'll be ready. Thank you for the warning, Tom." After Granger left, Clara paced the cabin. "We're not ready. We haven't had time to learn each other, to look like a real couple. The judge will see right through us." "Maybe, maybe not." Caleb caught her hand, stopping her mid-pace. "We've built something real here, Clara. It might not look like other marriages, but it's ours. That has to be enough." "What if it's not?" "Then we deal with it, together." The week passed in a blur of preparation and mounting anxiety. Clara worked at the general store, kept the cabin spotless, and tried to act like a woman in a genuine marriage instead of a legal arrangement. But every time she caught herself, she wondered if the judge would see through the performance. The night before the judge's arrival, Clara couldn't sleep. She lay in the darkness, listening to Caleb's steady breathing on the other side of the screen, and felt the weight of everything pressing down on her. "You awake?" Caleb's voice came through the darkness. "Yes." Nervous. Terrified. She heard rustling. Then Caleb appeared at the edge of the screen. "Can I come around?" "Yes." He sat on the edge of her side of the bed, keeping a respectful distance. "Want to talk about it? What if they annul the marriage? What if they force me to leave? What if everything we've built just falls apart? Then we'll build it again. Somewhere else. Somehow else." Caleb's hand found hers in the darkness. "I meant what I said, Clara. I'm not letting you face this alone." Why do you care so much about what happens to me?" "Because somewhere between finding you on that road and now you became important to me. Not just as a wife on paper, as a person He paused. "As someone I've come to care about deeply." Clara's breath caught. "Caleb." "I'm not asking you to say it back. I just want you to know that whatever happens tomorrow, you're not alone. You'll never be alone again if I have anything to say about it." Clara felt tears slip down her cheeks. "I don't deserve you. That's not your call to make. It's mine, and I'm choosing this, choosing you, every day." He squeezed her hand once, then stood and returned to his side of the screen. Clara lay in the darkness, her heart pounding, and realized something terrifying: she was falling in love with her husband. The judge arrived at noon the next day, a stern-looking man named Hoskins with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense manner. He sat up in the saloon and summoned Clara and Caleb immediately. "Mr. and Mrs. Turner," he said, looking them up and down, "I understand there's been some question about the legitimacy of your marriage." "There's been no question from us, Your Honor," Caleb said. "Only from a man who can't accept that my wife chose me over him. That man has filed a formal complaint claiming this marriage is fraudulent, that it was contracted solely to circumvent territorial cohabitation laws." Hoskins leaned back in his chair. "I'm here to determine if that's true." "It's not," Clara said firmly. "Then you won't mind answering some questions, separately." Hoskins gestured to Caleb. "Mr. Turner, please wait outside. Mrs. Turner, you're with me." Clara's heart hammered as Caleb left the room. She sat across from Judge Hoskins, her hands folded in her lap to hide their shaking. "Tell me about your marriage," Hoskins said. "How it came about. Why you chose Mr. Turner." Clara took a breath and told him everything. Not the sanitized version. The real story. How Marcus had abandoned her. How Caleb had offered shelter. How the relationship had grown from necessity into something genuine. "And you expect me to believe," Hoskins said when she finished, "that a marriage contracted under duress is a real marriage. I don't expect you to believe anything. I'm telling you what happened. Whether you choose to see the truth in it is up to you." Clara met his eyes. "But I love my husband, Your Honor. Not because the law says I should. Not because I had no other options. Because he's shown me what real partnership looks like. What real respect means. And I'd marry him again right now even if there was no legal reason to do so." The words hung in the air. Clara realized with shock that she meant them. Every single word. Hoskins studied her for a long moment. Then he called Caleb back in. "Mr. Turner, your wife just told me she loves you. Is that sentiment mutual?" Caleb didn't hesitate. "Yes, Your Honor, it is." "Since when?" "Since I found her on that road. I just didn't know it yet." Caleb looked at Clara. She was fierce and broken and beautiful all at once, and I knew I'd never meet anyone like her again. Marrying her was the smartest decision I've ever made. Clara felt her throat tighten. This wasn't for show. This wasn't performance. This was real. Hoskins shuffled his papers. "I've heard enough. The marriage stands. Mr. Hendricks's complaint is dismissed." Clara sagged with relief. Caleb caught her hand and held tight. "However," Hoskins continued, "I'm ordering a 6-month review. If at that time there's any evidence this marriage is not genuine, I will annul it. Am I clear?" "Crystal clear, Your Honor," Caleb said. Outside the saloon, Clara let herself breathe for the first time in hours. They'd won. The marriage stood. Marcus had lost. But then she saw him across the street, watching them with an expression that made her blood run cold. "Caleb," she whispered. He saw Marcus too. "Ignore him. He's got nothing left." But Marcus crossed the street, walking straight toward them. Clara braced herself for confrontation, but when he spoke, his voice was eerily calm. "Congratulations. You've convinced the judge, for now." Marcus smiled, and it was the coldest thing Clara had ever seen. "But 6 months is a long time. A lot can happen. Accidents, misunderstandings, all sorts of unfortunate events." "Is that a threat?" Caleb asked. "It's an observation. People who cross me tend to experience bad luck. Just ask the last ranch hand who tried to steal from me." "Oh wait, you can't. He left town pretty quick after his barn burned down." Caleb moved fast, grabbing Marcus by the collar. "If anything happens to my wife, to my ranch, to anything I own, I will personally see you hang. I don't care what I have to do or who I have to talk to. You'll regret it. Get your hands off me. Not until you understand me. Clara is under my protection. That's not just words, it's a promise. And I keep my promises. Marshal Granger appeared from nowhere. That's enough. Marcus, get out of here before I arrest you for disturbing the peace. Caleb, let him go. Caleb released Marcus with visible reluctance. Marcus straightened his collar, his expression ugly. This isn't over, he said. Yes, Clara said quietly, stepping forward. It is. You lost Marcus. Accept it and move on with your life. You think you've won? You think marrying some washed-up rancher makes you safe? Marcus's laugh was bitter. You're a fool, Clara. You always were. And fools don't last long in the Montana Territory. He walked away before anyone could respond. Clara watched him go, and she knew with absolute certainty that this was far from over. That night back at the ranch, Clara and Caleb sat on the porch in silence. The judge's ruling should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like the calm before a storm. He's going to do something, Clara said finally. Something bad. I know. So what do? We stay alert. We protect what's ours. And we don't let him see us scared. Caleb took her hand. What you said in there to the judge, did you mean it? Clara knew what he was asking. The declaration of love. The words that had spilled out in desperation and turned out to be truth. Yes, she said. I meant it. All of it. Caleb turned to look at her, and in his eyes she saw everything she'd been afraid to hope for. Understanding. Affection. Something deeper that she didn't have words for yet. I'm glad, he said simply. Because I meant what I said too. They sat together as the sun set, hands joined, facing an uncertain future. Marcus was still out there. The threat was still real. But for the first time since arriving in Montana, Clara felt something stronger than fear. She felt hope, and she felt loved. And that she thought might just be enough to get them through whatever came next. 2 weeks passed in uneasy peace. Clara worked at the general store, tended the ranch, and tried to convince herself that Marcus had finally given up. But every night, Caleb checked the locks twice. Every morning he walked the property line, looking for signs of disturbance. They were living in a state of constant vigilance, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It dropped on a Tuesday. Clara was closing up the general store when Martha pulled her aside. I need to tell you something, Martha said, her voice low. And you're not going to like it. Clara's stomach tightened. What is it? Marcus has been talking to people, offering money, lots of it, to anyone who'll testify that your marriage is fake. Can he do that? He's doing it. I've had 3 people come to me asking if I'd be willing to say I saw you and Caleb fighting, that you sleep in separate rooms, that it's all for show. Martha's expression was grim. I told them to go to hell, but others might not be so principled. How much is he offering? Enough to tempt people who are struggling, and there are plenty of those in Silver Creek. Clara felt rage and fear war inside her. We can't fight money. No. But you can fight with the truth, and you need to do it loud and public before Marcus's lies take root. Clara rode back to the ranch with her mind racing. She found Caleb in the barn, and the moment she told him what Martha had said, his face went dark. He's buying witnesses, Caleb said flatly. That's low even for Marcus. What do? We beat him at his own game. We show the whole town what a real marriage looks like. Caleb took her hands. Saturday night there's a community dance at the church. Everyone will be there. We go together. We dance. We show them we're a real couple, not play acting. I haven't danced in years. Neither have I. We'll figure it out together. But that night, everything changed again. Clara woke to the smell of smoke. Not wood smoke from the stove. Something chemical. Wrong. Caleb. She was out of bed before she was fully awake, shaking his shoulder. Caleb, wake up. He was on his feet instantly. What? Smoke? I smell smoke. They ran outside and saw it immediately. The barn was on fire. Not just a small blaze like before. The entire structure was engulfed in flames. "The horses," Clara gasped. Caleb was already running. He threw open the barn doors and disappeared into the inferno. Clara screamed his name, but he didn't come back. Seconds felt like hours. Then he emerged, leading 2 terrified horses, his face black with soot. "Get them to the corral," he choked out. "I'm going back for the others." "Caleb, no," but he was already gone. Clara got the horses secured and ran back to the barn. She could see Caleb inside, struggling with a panicked mare. The fire was spreading fast, eating through the old wood like paper. "Caleb, get out. The roof's going to collapse." He didn't listen. He got the mare out, then went back for the last horse. Clara watched in horror as a beam fell, missing him by inches. When he finally emerged with the final animal, the entire barn structure groaned and started to cave in. They watched it burn. There was nothing they could do. The barn was gone, and with it most of their equipment, their hay stores, everything they'd need to get through winter. "This was Marcus," Clara said, her voice shaking. "This was him." "I know. We need to prove it." "How you think he did this himself? He paid someone. Someone we'll never identify." Caleb's hands were clenched so tight his knuckles were white. "He's trying to destroy us piece by piece, and he's winning." "No." Clara grabbed his arm. "No, he's not winning. We're still standing. We still have each other. That's what matters." "Clara, we just lost half our livelihood. The hay, the equipment, can be replaced. You can't be replaced." Clara's voice broke. "When you ran into that barn, I thought I was going to lose you. And I realized that nothing, not the ranch, not the hay, not any of it matters as much as you do." Caleb pulled her close, and they stood together watching the barn burn down to ash and embers. When the sun rose, Sarah Jacobson arrived with half the town behind her. "We heard," Sarah said simply. "We're here to help." Over the next 3 days, the community came together in ways Clara had never expected. Men brought lumber. Women brought food. Even people who'd been cold to her before showed up with tools and willing hands. They couldn't rebuild the barn overnight, but they could make a start. Lenora Briggs surprised Clara most of all. She showed up on the second day with her husband and 2 sons, all carrying hammers. "I was wrong about you," Lenora said without preamble. "I let jealousy make me cruel. I'm sorry." Clara didn't know what to say. "Thank you. Marcus Hendricks is a disease on this town. We all know he did this, and we're all done pretending otherwise." By Friday, they had the frame of a new barn up. It wasn't finished, but it was a start. And more importantly, it was a message Clara and Caleb weren't alone. Saturday night came faster than Clara expected. She dressed carefully for the dance, wearing her best dress, her hair pinned up the way her mother had taught her. When she came out of the bedroom, Caleb stopped mid-motion and just stared. "You look beautiful," he said. "You look surprised." "I am. Every time I see you, you find new ways to take my breath away." Clara felt heat rise in her cheeks. "We should go. We don't want to be late." The church hall was packed when they arrived. Music played, couples danced, and the whole town seemed to be there. Clara felt eyes on her immediately, but this time the looks weren't all hostile. Some were curious, some were approving, a few were even friendly. Caleb took her hand and led her to the dance floor. "Ready?" "Not even a little bit." "Good. Neither am I." They danced. Badly at first, stepping on each other's feet, counting beats out loud. But then something clicked and they found their rhythm. Clara looked up at Caleb and saw him smiling, really smiling, something she'd seen so rarely it made her heart ache. "We're doing it," she said. "We're terrible at it. But we're doing it together." They danced 3 songs before Clara saw Marcus standing at the edge of the hall, watching them with an expression that made her blood run cold. "He's here," she whispered to Caleb. "I know. Ignore him." But Marcus didn't want to be ignored. He crossed the floor and tapped Caleb on the shoulder. "Mind if I cut in?" "Yes," Caleb said flatly. "I mind very much." "Come on, Turner. Just one dance. For old time's sake." "There are no old times. And my wife doesn't want to dance with you. Let her speak for herself. Marcus looked at Clara. What do you say? One dance proved to everyone here that there's no hard feelings. Clara knew what he was doing. If she refused, he'd claim she was afraid of him, that their marriage was so fragile she couldn't handle one dance with another man. But if she accepted one dance, she said, "And then you leave us alone." Caleb looked like he wanted to protest, but Clara squeezed his hand once before releasing it. She let Marcus lead her to the dance floor, her skin crawling at his touch. "You're making a mistake," Marcus said quietly as they moved. "This marriage won't last. He's using you just like I would have." "You're wrong." "Am I?" "What happens when the 6 months are up and the judge asks you again if this marriage is real? What happens when Caleb realizes he doesn't need you anymore?" "That won't happen." "Won't it? You're convenient, Clara, that's all. Just like you were convenient when you answered my advertisement. The only difference is, I had the decency to reject you before wasting your time." Clara stopped dancing. "You're a liar and a coward, and I'm done listening to you." She started to walk away, but Marcus grabbed her wrist. "We're not finished." "Yes, we are." "Let go of her." Caleb's voice cut through the music. "Now." Marcus released her wrist, but didn't back down. "Or what? You'll hit me in front of the whole town. Make yourself look like the violent brute you really are. If that's what it takes to protect my wife, yes. Do it then. Prove to everyone here that this marriage is built on your temper and her desperation." Clara saw Caleb's fist clench. She also saw Marcus's expression, eager, anticipating. He wanted Caleb to hit him. Wanted the spectacle. "No," Clara said, stepping between them. "He's not worth it." "Listen to your wife, Turner. At least one of you has some sense." Clara turned to face Marcus fully. "You want to know why I'll never regret choosing Caleb over you? It's not because he has land or stability or any of the things you think matter. It's because when I was at my lowest, he saw me as a person worth helping. He didn't see damaged goods or a convenient arrangement. He saw someone who deserved dignity and respect. And he's shown me every single day since that I was right to trust him." The hall had gone quiet. Everyone was watching now. "You say this marriage won't last," Clara continued. "But I know something you don't. It's already lasted longer than anything you've ever built, Marcus. Because it's built on truth, on partnership, on two people choosing each other every single day, not because they have to, but because they want to." She took Caleb's hand. "And that's something you'll never understand, because you don't know how to choose anyone but yourself." The silence stretched for a long moment. Then Sarah Jacobson started clapping. Others joined in. Within seconds, half the hall was applauding. Marcus's face went red. "You'll regret this." "No," Clara said quietly. "I really won't." Marcus stormed out. Clara felt her knees go weak and Caleb caught her. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen," he murmured in her ear. "I was terrified." "I know, that's what made it brave." They left the dance early, both exhausted. On the ride home, Clara leaned against Caleb's shoulder, feeling the weight of everything they'd been through settle over her. "Do you think he'll stop now?" she asked. "I don't know. I hope so. And if he doesn't, then we keep fighting, together." When they reached the ranch, Caleb helped Clara down from the wagon, and they stood together looking at the partially rebuilt barn. It wasn't much yet, but it was progress. Proof that they could rebuild after destruction. "Clara," Caleb said suddenly, "come here. I want to show you something." He led her to the back of the property, where a small grove of trees stood. In the moonlight, Clara could just make out what looked like foundation stones. "What is this?" "I started it years ago, was going to build a proper house here. For my wife, for the family we'd have." His voice was rough. "I stopped after she died, couldn't see the point anymore." "Why are you showing me this now?" "Because I want to finish it. With you. I want to build a real home, Clara. Not just a cabin we share, but a place that's ours, where we can build a life together." Clara felt tears sting her eyes. "Caleb, I know it's fast. I know we've only been married a few weeks, but I also know I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Not because the law says I should. Not because Marcus forced us into it. Because I choose you, Clara Turner. Every day I choose you." Clara kissed him. It was the first time she'd initiated any physical affection between them, and it felt terrifying and right all at once. When they broke apart, Caleb was smiling. "I'll take that as a yes," he said. "It's a yes to everything, the house, the life, all of it." They walked back to the cabin hand in hand, and for the first time since arriving in Montana, Clara felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. But the next morning brought new trouble. Marshal Granger rode up to the ranch looking grim. "What's wrong?" Caleb asked. "Marcus filed charges, says you assaulted him at the dance last night." "That's a lie," Clara said. "Caleb never touched him." "I believe you, but Marcus has 3 witnesses willing to swear they saw it happen." Granger looked miserable. "I have to bring you in, Caleb, at least until we sort this out." "Those witnesses are paid liars," Clara said. "Everyone at that dance knows what really happened. Then we'll get testimony from them too. But right now I need Caleb to come with me. It's just procedure." Caleb looked at Clara. "It's going to be all right." "Is it? Because this feels like Marcus winning again?" "He's not winning. He's desperate. Desperate people make mistakes." Caleb kissed her forehead. "I'll be back before nightfall. Keep the rifle close. Don't open the door for anyone except people you trust." Clara watched them ride away feeling sick. This was exactly what Marcus wanted to separate them, to make her feel vulnerable again. She spent the morning working mechanically, her mind spinning. By noon, Sarah arrived with news. "The whole town's talking. People are furious. They know Marcus is lying, and they're organizing testimony to prove it." "Will it be enough?" "I think so. But Clara—" Sarah hesitated. "You should know Marcus left town this morning. Rode out with his belongings. People are saying he's not coming back." Clara felt something cold settle in her stomach. He wouldn't give up that easily. Maybe he knows he's lost. Maybe he's finally accepting defeat. But Clara didn't believe it. And when Caleb came home that evening, cleared of all charges, thanks to testimony from half the dance attendees, she told him about Marcus leaving. "Good riddance," Caleb said. "Let him go sulk somewhere else." "It doesn't feel right. He's too proud to just leave." "Maybe. But maybe he finally realized he couldn't beat us." Clara wanted to believe that. She tried to believe it. But something nagged at her, a sense of unfinished business. 3 days later, she found out what. She was at the general store when a stranger rode into town, a well-dressed man with legal documents. He went straight to the marshal's office, then to the church, then to the general store. "I'm looking for Mrs. Clara Turner," he said. "That's me." He handed her an envelope. "You've been served, ma'am." Clara opened it with shaking hands and read the contents twice before they made sense. Marcus had filed suit in the territorial court claiming Clara had breached a marriage contract with him. He was suing for damages, including half the value of Caleb's ranch. "This is insane," Clara said. "We never had a contract, just letters." "The letters constitute a contract under territorial law, ma'am. Judge will decide if they're binding." After the man left, Clara rode straight home and told Caleb. His face went white. "He can't do this. He's doing it, and if he wins, he won't win. We'll fight this. With what legal fees will bankrupt us. And even if we win, he's already damaged us. The barn, the charges, now this. He's destroying us piece by piece." Caleb pulled her close. "Then we'll rebuild piece by piece. We've done it before." But that night, Clara lay awake thinking about everything they stood to lose. The ranch, their home, their future. All because Marcus couldn't accept defeat. The next morning, she made a decision. She rode into Silver Creek and found Tom Granger at his office. "I need to know where Marcus is," she said. "Clara, don't—" "I'm going to talk to him. End this once and for all." "That's a bad idea." "Maybe, but it's my idea and I'm doing it whether you help me or not." Granger sighed. "He's staying at the boarding house in Copper Falls. 2 days' ride north, but Clara, be careful. Marcus is cornered, and cornered men are dangerous. Clara didn't tell Caleb where she was going. She left a note saying she'd gone to visit a friend in the next town and would be back in a few days. It was a lie, but she couldn't risk him following her. The ride to Copper Falls gave her too much time to think. About what she'd say to Marcus. About whether this was brave or foolish. About whether she'd make everything worse. She found him in a saloon, drunk and bitter. "Clara," he slurred when he saw her. "Come to beg for mercy. I came to ask why. Why can't you just let this go? Let it go. You humiliated me, chose a nobody rancher over me, made me look like a fool in front of the whole territory. You did that yourself when you abandoned me on a road." Marcus laughed bitterly. "I should have married you when I had the chance. Should have locked you down before Turner got his hooks in you." "Caleb doesn't have hooks in me. He loves me. Actually loves me, not just what I can do for him. Love." Marcus spat the word. "Love doesn't pay debts. Love doesn't rebuild a reputation. Love is a fairy tale for children." "Then I feel sorry for you, because you'll never know what we have. What you have is my ranch, my future, everything that should have been mine." Clara stared at him, understanding finally clicking into place. "This isn't about me at all. It's about the ranch. You were never going to marry me for me. You needed someone to work the land because you're drowning in debt." Marcus's expression confirmed it. "My father's business didn't just fail. It destroyed me. I need that ranch to stay solvent. And you were supposed to be the solution. Free labor, legal cover for assets. Instead, you gave it all to Turner." "I didn't give Caleb anything. I chose a partner over a user, that's all." "Well, your choice is going to cost you. I'll take half that ranch in court. I'll take everything." "No," Clara said quietly. "You won't, because I'm withdrawing the lawsuit myself." "You can't do that. I filed it." "You filed it claiming breach of contract with me, but I'm willing to testify that there was no contract, that your letters made no binding promises, that I came here under false pretenses you created." Clara leaned forward. "And I'll bring every letter you wrote Marcus, every lie you told about your financial situation, every promise you made that you had no intention of keeping. I'll expose you as the fraud you are." Marcus's face went pale. "You wouldn't." "Try me. Take this to court, and I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are." Or, Clara took a breath, "you drop the lawsuit, leave the territory, and never contact me or Caleb again. Your choice." "You're bluffing." "Am I? Because I have nothing left to lose, Marcus. You've already taken everything you could from me. But you have a reputation, family name, pride. I can destroy all of that with one day of testimony." They stared at each other across the table. Clara's heart hammered, but she kept her expression calm. Finally, Marcus looked away. "Fine, I'll drop it. But if I ever see you again..." "You won't, because I'm never leaving that ranch. I'm never leaving Caleb. And you're going to spend the rest of your life knowing you lost to someone better than you." Clara rode back to Silver Creek feeling lighter than she had in months. When she reached the ranch, Caleb was waiting on the porch, her note crumpled in his hand. "Where were you really?" he asked. "Ending things. For good." She told him everything. About finding Marcus. About the real reason for the lawsuit. About the choice she'd given him. "You could have been killed," Caleb said when she finished. "But I wasn't. And it's over, Caleb. Really over this time." "How can you be sure?" "Because I saw his face when I threatened to expose him. He's done. He knows he lost." Caleb pulled her into his arms. "Don't ever scare me like that again." "I won't. I promise." The lawsuit was dropped 2 days later. Marcus left the territory a week after that. Word came through Sarah that he'd gone back east, tail between his legs. Life returned to normal slowly. The barn got finished. The ranch recovered. Clara kept working at the general store 3 days a week and spent the rest of her time building the life she and Caleb had promised each other. When the 6-month review came, Judge Hoskins took one look at them and dismissed it without questions. The marriage stood permanent and uncontested. A year after Clara first arrived in Montana, she stood with Caleb at the foundation stones of their new house. The walls were up now, the roof nearly finished. It would be ready by winter. "I've been thinking," Caleb said, "about names. Names. For the baby, when the time comes. I want to name a daughter after your mother, if you'd like that." Clara felt tears sting her eyes. "I'd like that very much. And a son after mine. Build a future that honors where we came from, while building something entirely new." Exactly. Clara looked out over the land they'd fought so hard to keep. The ranch stretched toward mountains she now knew by name. The community that had once judged her now called her friend. And the man beside her, the one who'd found her at her lowest and lifted her to heights she'd never imagined, held her hand like he'd never let go. "Do you ever regret it?" Caleb asked. "Coming here, everything you went through." Clara thought about the woman she'd been on that road, broken, desperate, abandoned. She thought about who she'd become, strong, loved home. "No," she said. "I don't regret a single moment, because every hard thing brought me here. To you. To this life we built together. Even Marcus. Even Marcus. Because fighting him showed me what I was capable of. What we were capable of together." Caleb kissed her slow and sweet. When they broke apart, Clara felt the rightness of it settle deep in her bones. She'd come to Montana for a marriage arranged by letters and lies. But she'd found something infinitely better, a partnership forged in fire, tested by adversity, and strengthened by choice. She'd found a man who saw her as an equal, a community that accepted her as one of their own, and a future built on love instead of obligation. Marcus Hendricks had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd given her the chance to become someone stronger than she'd ever been. And for that, though, she'd never tell him she was almost grateful. Because Clara Turner, née Whitfield, once abandoned mail-order bride, now rancher's wife and equal partner, had learned the most important truth of all. Love isn't found in promises written on paper or arrangements made for convenience. Love is built through trust, day-by-day, choice by choice. Two people standing together against whatever the world throws at them. And that love, once earned and given freely, is unbreakable.